Hi, everybody. Mrs. Once here, and my dog Scout. Today, we're going to talk about commas in sentences. So, what do commas look like? You've seen commas before, pretty simple. You've used them before. They're not semicolons and they are not apostrophes. On Scout's punctuation difficulty scale, comma is the hardest one because they are so prevalent. They're everywhere, and it's hard to know what the rules are for commas. So, why do we care about commas? Well, we want to evolve our writing toward complexity without sacrificing clarity. Clarity means clearness. So, we want to be able to express ourselves and our complex ideas in writing, and we want readers to understand exactly what we mean. A comma does help with this. So, the definition of a comma is a punctuation mark that signals a pause in a sentence to help improve understanding. This is a little bit like when you're driving in a car and you see somebody who with a flag and a slow sign, and they're basically signaling to you to pay attention because there is construction ahead. And that's the same that a writer does with a comma. You're constructing something into your sentence that you want to communicate to the reader and make very clear. So, for example, let's eat grandma is a lot different than let's eat grandma. Without a comma, it makes it sound like maybe you're going to be having grandma for dinner instead of eating dinner with grandma. So, where do commas belong? Basically, commas belong wherever they need to be in order to avoid confusion. So, for example, similar to the last classic example with grandma, we should hunt Scout, Barney whispered, versus we should hunt Scout, Barney whispered. One comma is going to make a big difference in the intentions of that sentence. And Scout is going to be much happier with that second one to be Barney's partner rather than to be hunted by Barney. So we're going to look at 5 places that commas typically belong. So the first place is in dialogue, right before the final quotation mark. So here you can see a comma. I know what Scout dreams, Barney whispered. And basically, you could put an exclamation mark there. You could put a question there if it was a question. But if it's just a simple statement, you do want to put a comma there. And you want to keep just one period in the sentence. And it goes after at the very end of the sentence. It doesn't go here. Another place that commas belong are in compound sentences between the independent clauses. Now, we've discussed this in this series, so this is a little bit of a review for you if you've been following along. Scout saw the rainbow mouse out of the corner of her eye, comma, but she didn't know if it was real. So we have our independent clause here, we have our independent clause here, and of course we have a conjunction that's joining them, and you do need that comma. Number 3, complex sentences between the dependent clause and the independent clause in a complex sentence. So here is an example. Whenever Scout saw the rainbow mouse out of the corner of her eye, comma, she wanted to chase it. So we have our dependent clause, we have our independent clause, and we do need the comma. And I've covered this in the series on complex sentences as well, so it should be a review for you. Number 4, so I'm going to show you a new thing that I haven't shown you before, and that is when you want to put a dependent clause right in the middle of an independent clause. So the rainbow mouse, comma, who appeared one day out of nowhere, comma, captured Scout's attention. So you can see that we have 2 commas right here. It's basically holding this information and pointing it back towards the rainbow mouse. So to remember the 2 commas, I like to think of a comma taco. Basically, the information that is describing, in this case, the mouse, is going to be between two commas, just like a taco shell. And number 5, the easiest one probably for you, is between items on a list. The rainbow mouse seemed like it was friendly, fun, happy, and harmless. So we have our 2 commas there, and you could add a third comma. It is optional. It is called an Oxford comma, and it comes right before the last item on your list, right before the conjunction, and it is considered a choice for the writer. And in some cases, like for example, in journalism, they don't let you use an Oxford comma. They don't see it as necessary usually. And then sometimes your teachers might want you to use an Oxford comma. So just pay attention to whatever the teacher is asking for if they care. And if they don't care, then it's absolutely your choice whether you use one or not. So 2 common comma mistakes that I want to cover. Number 1, a comma alone is not strong enough to join 2 independent clauses. I see this quite a bit still in middle school, and this is what it looks like. The rainbow mouse is cute, comma, Scout wants to chase it. Well, that's a perfectly great sentence, but the comma is just not strong enough to join those 2 independent clauses. So we're going to cross that out and we're going to fix it. And you have 2 ways that you could fix it. Number 1, you could make a compound sentence. Just grab one of the fanboy conjunctions, put it between the 2 independent clauses, put a comma in front of it, boom, you have a compound sentence. The other way you can make a compound sentence, you learned with semicolons, is just join it with a semicolon. The semicolon is strong enough to hold 2 independent clauses together, no problem. That's what they're kind of designed to do. The comma is not strong enough. It needs to either borrow the conjunction and keep the comma, or just replace the comma with a semicolon. So, and number 2, a comma does not go behind the conjunction. So in this case, you can see the comma right here. A lot of times I'm going to see that in 6th grade, 7th grade. It starts to die out in 8th grade and you start remembering a little bit more. So hopefully this will just be a little reminder that you want to move that comma in front of the conjunction when you're using it in a compound sentence. So here we have a challenge, and I'm going to put up 5 sentences right now, and then you can see, can you place the commas correctly? Basically, I took all the commas out, and I want to see if you can put them back where they go. So I encourage you to pause your video right now and see where you would put the commas in these sentences, and I'll give you a hint. One sentence does not need a comma. Number 1, instead of chasing the rainbow mouse, Anahita wanted to interview it. So this is basically a complex sentence, and the comma goes right after the dependent clause and right before the independent clause. Number 2, Anahita had a list of questions for the mouse. How old are you? What do you eat? Where do you live? And what is your favorite color? So this is basically a list, and it has several items in the list. So the commas are going to go after each item. How old are you? What do you eat? Where do you live? And then what is your favorite color? I did use an Oxford comma because I felt like it would give just a little bit of clarity to this longer list that I made. Number 3, the dog lion Hercules lived in Scout's dreams, but somehow Anahita knew about him. So this is basically your typical compound sentence, and the comma goes right in front of the conjunction that joins the 2 independent clauses together. Number 4, the seagull, a bragging, greedy creature, would take anyone's food. So this requires the comma taco, the 2 commas that are holding this phrase, this information about the seagull together in a little taco and plopping it right down in the middle of your sentence. And lastly, number 5, Scout wondered how Anahita and Barney were able to talk to the characters in her dreams. This is the one that does not require a comma. It is perfectly fine just the way it is. It's a simple sentence, and it doesn't need any clarification with a comma. That's it. We're done. You can go on to practice and feedback. Scout says good job in the end, and we will see you next time.